I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. Clerk, could we have a roll call?
Counselor Long here. Counselor Combs
Here.
Counselor Myers
Here.
Counselor Ratliff
Here.
Got a quorum.
Thank you. Moving into public comments. Comments will be accepted from the general public concerning topics that are not included in the meeting's agenda. Individuals will be limited to 3 minutes of speaking time, and the cumulative totals of all comments from the public shall not exceed 15 minutes. Preference will be given to Tahlequah residents. In compliance with the Oklahoma Open Meetings Act, no action or discussion is permitted by the City Council on any issue or topic raised by a speaker during this public comment period. Do we have anyone who would like to make a comment?
Getting to be kind of old hat seeing you folks, but it's always great to see you, and thank you, Mayor. Just for some information, some of the counselors have talked to me about some possibilities with our memorial to help us to offset the cost of the infrastructure, and we've been working diligently on that. I did get some information, the city attorney had mentioned to me that he thought it'd be helpful to you if you knew a comparable memorial and how many persons come to see that memorial. The closest we can get to that is a memorial located in the state of New York. It's called the Hall of Fame Purple Heart Museum and Memorial, and they have 20,000 visitors a year. Now, if you try to tie that all out to sales tax, it'd be a little difficult to do, but I'm guessing we probably would expect 5,000 visitors to Tahlequah in any given year. And if you look at the sales tax with that, we're thinking maybe $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a year. But there's no way that I can substantiate that for you. I'm just telling you what the other memorial was done. We're also looking at some work in kind, if we can do that on ODOT property. We've already had some folks step forward to say that we'll do some things for you, like dirt work. Trey, you mentioned to me about a bridge engineer that said he would help us with the bridge, which is the big part of the puzzle. So we're well on our way. We're working hard, and I know we're going to discuss this in our July meeting, but I wanted to give you that information so to kind of keep you up to speed on what's going on our part. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate you and your friends for being here yet again. We do love to see you. Thank you. Are there other comments? If not, we will move on to item number 4, discussion and presentation of TSET Healthy Living Program tobacco-free signage for the Anthus Brennan Sports Complex.
Sorry. We didn't see brief. No. Laura Bushell just here like 2 weeks ago. Thank you guys for having us, making time on your agenda for this. We had our annual Kick Butt Day event, which is a youth advocacy day to stand up, speak out, and seize control against big tobacco. Back in March, we have 10 youth advocacy teams, student wellness action teams in our county, and they were tasked with a project to advocate against tobacco here in our community. The project for them was to develop signage for Anthus Brennan Sports Complex, and we were able to do that with partnership from the city here and with sponsors from our community to purchase the signage. So each team was tasked to come up with a design that was relevant to different parts of Anthus Brennan. So we only brought a few examples with us today, but we have one on football, softball, baseball, swimming, and they worked with Santec screen printing to develop the signs into a graphic. And so we are here today to present the signage to the city, and thank you for your time and working towards making our city a tobacco-free place for people to play, for our kids to play without the harm of cigarette and smoke.
And I'll just echo that. We appreciate the support, and it wouldn't happen without you guys or the support of our adult partners.
Yeah. And so at this time, if it's okay, we'd like to bring our partners up here to take a photograph with the mayor and the council.
Council? You good? Okay.
Can't say no to
Sounds
the
good.
kids. Yeah. Fine. Yeah.
Photographer, but. Sue, I can't see you.
Pretty good.
Okay, I'll see he's too tall. Okay, I can see everyone. Smile. All right, here you go.
One more.
Sorry, guys, I had two fun guys.
I don't know.
Look at me. Okay, that's one.
Here we go.
All right, he was looking.
We have the rest of the signage at our office, so we'll either deliver it or have someone come pick it up either way. So we'll just take these back with us so you don't have to worry about them after your meeting. And again, thank you.
We're so proud of the work that TSET's doing.
Thank you. And we couldn't do it without our partners, and definitely cannot do this without our SWAT kids. Our youth are a huge support for our program, so.
Thank you. Moving to item number 5, discussion and possible action to approve resolution number 06/1819, adopting the fiscal year 2019-20 Tahlequah City budget. Councilors, I believe you each have received a budget packet. It is still the same numbers that we saw at the public hearing on Saturday. A little bit more detail involved here, thanks to Dania. Certainly appreciate you and your team.
Thank you.
Going back through the mayor's budget message for the highlights. The sales tax revenue reflects estimated increase in tax receipts of 3% of the general fund. At the same time, the 2009 bonds will mature in September 2019, so sales tax collections to support those bonds will cease. That leads to a significant decrease in sales tax revenue. Raises of 3% are proposed for most full-time positions. The FOP contract negotiation continues, which means budget modification will be required when agreement is reached. The budget includes no new position requests. Salaries and benefits within the general fund are 89.3% of the general fund revenue. And for the budget as a whole, salaries and benefits are 79.5% of revenue. Transfers from the general fund for grants and other obligations total $617,619. Lease and other required expenditures total $281,297. And required purchases include emergency siren and firefighter FIT testing. The budget for capital purchases and expenditures includes only those items that are critical to continue provision of good service and safety, keeping our priority of street repairs and trails/sidewalk development intact. And the net before cash reserve reflects the difference between projected revenue and projected expenses. In addition to that, we have a requirement for a reserve fund. The city's general fund shall have an unappropriated operating reserve fund balance of at least 5% of annually budgeted expenditures, which means that we must maintain at least $618,151 in an unappropriated reserve, which would be in the CDs. We also have an appropriated emergency reserve account requirement of 3% of annually budgeted expenditures, which is $370,890. So as we discussed on Saturday, there are some modifications that we know will need to be made. So I would like to ask that we approve the budget as it's presented tonight, knowing that early next year, we will be rolling back in with some additional changes that we'll be asking the council to consider. One of those would be to bring that appropriated reserve up from the 300 now that I had included to the 378.90. Are there questions or comments from council or from any of the audience?
I have a question. We explain what you just said to me again. Start at the beginning.
About the reserve?
About the emergency reserve, because the reserve, the first requirement was $5,000 or 5%, which was like 60 or 600.
618,000.
Then the second emergency was 3%, which was 300.
378.90.
Okay. So does the amount that we keep in the CDs in those accounts, that doesn't count for both of those? Because together that, what you just said doesn't even equal $1 million, but the amount that we have in the CDs is like 2.8 million.
Correct. Then this is the minimum requirement. And so, actually funds in those CDs can be appropriated and unappropriated, but the unappropriated portion really would not be available for expenditure unless the council came back in and appropriated it.
So the CDs are divided up into like 7 segments.
Yes.
Could we divide those up as restricted and unrestricted? And then we're not having to divide up actual cash in the general fund? Because
That
my
would,
worry is there's already a $300,000 reserve, and then with the budget modification, we want to do it to 373,300.
378.90.
I don't know why these little numbers. 378.90, but if we already have it in reserve in the CD, then we don't have to reserve it in cash through the general fund. We can restrict or unrestrict those CDs, correct?
I don't see any problem with that. Do you, Mr. Williams?
No, I mean, it's all in the general fund. You're just gonna account for it
A little differently.
in those terms. You know, whether it's in a CD or whatever, we still have that as a reserve. They're just drawing interest in the CDs.
So I guess that's just where a little bit of my confusion is if we have those CDs as the reserve, but then we have additional general fund dollars as reserve. Now we've reserved on top of our reserve. We're reserving a lot.
Okay, but part of it has to be appropriated and part of it has to be unappropriated. So the appropriated part has to be in our budget.
Right.
But whether that's money that is sitting in the bank account or that's money that's sitting in the CDs is not material to that.
Okay.
Hearing nothing else, is there a motion?
I will make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, could we have a roll call?
Counselor Combs?
I disagree with the budget. I think there's some misleading and misunderstandings here. But because of the employees needing a paycheck, and we're gonna review this in December, I'll go ahead and vote yes.
Counselor Hires?
Yes.
Counselor Rattler?
Yes.
Counselor Long? Yes. Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Just want to be clear that resolution was adopted as well as part of your, as presented, right?
Yes, correct. Thank you, Greg. You read my mind.
Let me find my agenda again. I lost it. Here, let's call this. Item number 6, discussion and possible action in regards to 2019-20 drug dog agreement between the city of Tahlequah and Tahlequah Public Schools. Chief King.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. This is a recurring contract we have with the schools. Our city attorney, Grant Lloyd, has cleaned it up a little bit this year, made some modifications, but nothing meat and potato wise, just secured the language a little bit. It's still hours that we contract with them with the dogs.
Oh, sorry.
Well, we got an email today that had this agreement. What was the
One was modified.
The original that was in your packet was revised by the city attorney, and the one that you, is that not correct?
I submitted the
Or vice
wrong
versa?
one originally.
The one you got today
I
is the-
inadvertently submitted the old
Is the
contract with
revised
my
version,
item
That's what I was-
replacement.
yeah. But in the packet,
I'm not against it. The only question I asked is I want to make sure that we approve the right one, either what's in our packet or what we got via email. So when we make the motion, we make sure that we're approving the right agreement.
Yeah, this is supposed to be the update. You might have Chief King just double check since it's
You're the one that updated, Council. I trust your word.
very good.
I mean, I couldn't see much different.
Yeah,
No,
it's
there's
just-
that's
not.
why I
It
was
was
like-
just,
tighten some things up.
What
Yes.
is the difference?
no, this is
Here's
this is
the
the
differences. However,
okay, so I make my motion to approve the one in Deanna's hand.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
There's a motion and second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Counselor Hires,
Yes.
Counselor Ratliff,
Yes.
Counselor Long,
Yes.
Counselor Combs.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Item number 7, discussion and possible action to purchase a used 2007 Ingersoll Rand model PT 125R pneumatic roller, rubber tire roller by Street Commissioner Wayne Riles.
Good evening, everyone. Glad to see the 2 or 3 or 4 of you that made it back. Hope you had a good time. I have this on the agenda. This is the last piece of equipment that we're gonna need so that we can do chip seal. We have rollers, we have steel drum rollers. The steel drum rollers are very rigid. They will not go down in a dip to compact. This rubber tire roller has 9 individually suspended rubber tires on it. And it has a place you can put a sand ballast. It has a water system. As you put down the road oil, put the chips down over it, then you can roll it with the rubber tire roller. And being independently suspended, they can go down into the dips, they can compact all of the chips that you put down. It's a used one. Looked at it, it's in excellent shape, it has very low hours. I called around, I found one, Boxer had one. I talked to 5 different equipment companies that we do business with, and they're the only ones that had one. I asked Jerica to put it out for bid. I wrote some specifications. From the one that Boxer had, I expanded it. I made the specifications much broader. I didn't tighten them up so that that would be the only one that fit it. I broadened them. We put it out, and we wound up getting just one bid from Boxer for $35,000. We have the money in the account that is in your packet, the account number. It's this year's money. So please let me get the roller.
How fast?
Excuse me?
How fast does it go?
About as fast as you can walk.
And the question is, does it make our streets here in town a lot better?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll make a
Make
motion
them
to
better, last
approve.
longer. Thank you.
Second.
Alright, does he need to include the amount in that motion, Grant?
Yeah, as presented, he said it's 35,000. You want to clarify?
I'll make a motion to approve the roller for Mr. Wayne Riles for 35,000.
Second.
There's been a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, roll call.
Counselor Ratliff,
Yes.
Counselor Long,
Yes.
Counselor Combs?
Yeah.
Counselor Hires,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, thank you all very much. Council Collins will give you a ride on it anytime.
Or a race, it sounds like.
So when's that going to arrive, Wayne?
Yeah.
Tomorrow?
Counselor, get working.
We get it tomorrow?
Yeah. Got to get it first.
Okay. Moving on to item number 8, discussion and possible action to accept the self-termination of Aaron Lewis as a collector in the solid waste department.
Just a kind of a job abandonment, so just kind of going through, normally I would put that in the consent agenda, but just trying to clean things up and keep them moving.
I'll make a motion to approve as requested.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Long,
Yes.
Counselor Combs?
Yes.
Counselor Hires,
Yes.
Counselor Ratliff,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, discussion and possible action to demote a 490 laborer to 552 laborer in the Parks and Recreation Department.
And this is just really a reshift. The young lady is Emma Doss, and she held a lifeguard position, but she doesn't want to hold that position anymore. But she still wants to stay working for the city on the weekends at the golf course and such. So we're just switching her around so that we can fill the lifeguard position. And I did, it seems like there's been a lot of positions for the Parks and Rec Department, but I actually ran a list yesterday, and there's still, after the 2 or 3 that we have tonight, there are gonna still be 2 or 3 people understaffed. So they're within their budget. And, Heather's done a really great job trying to get things lined out and such out there. So pretty simple, very straightforward.
Emma's a great young lady. We are going to love keeping her. So I will happily make a motion that we demote Emma Doss as requested.
There's a motion and second. Any discussion?
I have a question. Sorry. Mr. Question tonight. A 490 laborer, so we're demoting her from a 490 to a 552?
There is a change. The lifeguards make an hourly rate of $8.90 an hour, and the 552 part-time laborers make $8.25 an hour. So there is a change in pay.
So it's pay, it's not the hours.
Well, it's the hours too.
So I thought that
Based
would
on
be
that.
backwards.
Yeah, no, it's hours too.
It's a good question.
Any further discussion, questions? Do we have roll call?
Counselor Combs?
Yes.
Counselor Hires,
Yes.
Counselor Ratliff,
Yes.
Counselor Long,
Yes.
motion carried.
Discussion and possible action to hire a 490 laborer in the Parks and Recreation Department.
And I've opened up that 490 spot. So it is for lifeguards for Jessica Lear.
So move.
We got no payment to step and grade, right? No step and
No,
grade.
no,
490,
they're
because we already said they
they're
make
$8.90
$8.90
an hour.
I'm sorry. Okay. Second.
There's a motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call?
Counselor Hires,
Yes.
Counselor Ratliff,
Yes.
Counselor Long,
Yes.
Counselor Combs?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Discussion and possible action to hire a 999 laborer in the Solid Waste Department.
This is a part-time position in the solid waste department. It is a budgeted position. I think it's been open all year, right, Chris? So, but he had some really good candidates. Our next candidate for his other position is got a CDL, but he's trying to shore those things up. It's a temporary position or a part-time position, $9.99, $8.95 an hour, and it's on, Charles Sam.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? If not, roll call?
Counselor Ratliff,
Yes.
Counselor Long,
Yes.
Counselor Combs,
Yes.
Counselor Hires,
Yes.
motion carried.
Item number 12, discussion and possible action to hire a collector in the solid waste department.
Yes, this is for David Fine. Actually, he applied for a part-time position, but he has a CDL. And we'd like to offer him the position. It's a beginning salary. It's a T111 step 1. Right? Okay. And again, his name is David Fine.
I will make a motion to approve David Fine at a T111 step 1.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? If not, could we have roll call?
Counselor Long,
Yes.
Counselor Combs,
Yes.
Counselor Hires,
Yes.
Counselor Ratliff,
Yes.
motion carried.
And the last item, discussion and possible action to hire an encumbrance clerk in the finance department.
Yes, we have been working on this bill for a little while. We're on our second round of interviews, actually. We began back in May. We did have a candidate that we extended an offer to and wanted to present to council in May, but that candidate did not accept our offer. And so we went back to the drawing board, did another round of interviews. It was actually Dana, myself, and Jerica Kramer who works side by side with this position. And we'd like to offer this position to Brianna Crittenden. And it's an entry-level position, so it is a T112 step 1.
I make a motion to hire Brianna Crittenden at a T112 step 1 as requested.
Second.
There's a motion and second, any discussion?
I would say, is she any relation to any of the other critics?
Well.
It's Cherokee County.
Probably so.
Okay.
That's
That's
not
all I
a
need to
question
know.
that I typically would ask in the interview process, but we don't have any Crittendens in any kind of managerial positions that she would be working with, so
Okay.
there shouldn't be any issues there.
I think there's just I think it's a different spelling.
Could be a different spell.
Could be for us, this probably.
Can be a typo.
I just did that like about 5 minutes before I walked in here, so I thought, oh. E-N-D-E-N. Is that how it was?
Yeah, there's a D at the end.
Yeah.
Is that
Oh,
right?
no.
Okay. Because I was gonna say all the other Crittendens don't have a D at the end, so. So she is related to
Is there further discussion? If not, could we have roll call?
Counselor Combs?
Yes.
Counselor Hires,
Yes.
Counselor Ratliff,
Yes.
Counselor Long,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council.
Item number 14, adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you.
Do we need to discuss upcoming meeting?
No.
Hires and Okay. Counselor Hires,
Yes.
Counselor Ratliff,
Yes.
Counselor Long,
Yes.
Counselor Combs,
Yeah.
motion carried.
Thank you very much. We appreciate everyone who's here today.